Yo, what up, though? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Fam with your boy, Reverend Stu and Tykia.
What's up?
I be wanting to call you Reverend Tykia. Minister Key. I be calling you Minister Key though all the time, though. I be prophesying to you. Minister Key!
Hello.
What's the word today, Minister? What's the word today? What is the word today? Help me, because what's the word?
I
What's
don't
the
know.
word today?
Honestly, the word is joy for me.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Really working on tapping into joy in everything.
For sure.
Absolutely. Because we need it right now.
We do. It's
I
finals
need
time.
it right now.
True. It's finals time for you. And
Yes.
of course, finals time is always just challenging because you kind of mentally kind of cramming things and you want to do well, and you just kind of the anxiety that goes to like the tests and things like that. What are you doing, like one ritual of joy for you? What have you been doing?
So lately, I've been waking up and immediately journaling. It's something that I'm testing out. And it was a prompt that was given to me because I'm going through the Artist Way book. And one of the things is it's journaling in the morning. And it's just for 3 pages. You just write whatever is on your mind. You don't supposed to go back and read it. You don't share it with anyone. You just get it out. And this is day 3. And
how's it been?
It's been good.
Okay.
It's been really good.
Okay. Without getting too deep into it, any revelations in 3 days that you've kind of discovered that's just been like moments or moments?
I don't need to be afraid of anything. Like I don't have to be afraid of myself and who I'm becoming in Christ. Like I can just rest and be assured that everything that I have is everything that I need. And all I need to do is just strike while the moment is right there. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've actually been journaling for the last 10 years. 2 journals a year.
That's dope.
Yeah. So it's a huge part of my own kind of spiritual development and kind of self-awareness as a human, and as a person, and just with all the responsibilities that I have. Like, I don't know what I would do in life without my like journal and just the simplicity of the journal. And like, there's something about the vulnerability of the blank page in which you get to be honest in ways that, you are not afforded with others around you, probably because of who you are and, who they need you to be for them, and things like that. But like, I just don't know where I would be without the journals that I possess. There's one journal in particular I carry on me every single day, and it's the journal from 2021 to 2022.
Wow. And
I carry it with me everywhere I go. There's nowhere that I go that journal don't follow me. Probably because like it was a year in which I was struggling with so much mentally and emotionally. And I just think that a lot of times like black men in particular, struggle with like self-expression or, feeling as if we can be honest about the things that we're holding or the things that we're going through. And that year I was dealing with a lot of deep insecurity, a lot of panic attacks. I was dealing with, my mental health was terrible during that moment. But the crazy part is, on paper, it was one of my most successful moments on paper. So in public, you have this kind of voice or person or persona that is like very successful, very active, very visible, very present. But like in my own self, I'm going through deep struggles. And one of the things that I love going back through is like, probably it's like you go back and you realize like, okay, on this day I said, okay, like dad, like I'm dealing with a lot of insecurity today, or, my son had a seizure, or one of my good friends died and there was a 7-day break of silence in that moment, or my grandfather passed away and others passed away, and just, had deals canceled and, doors closed. And I look back on that moment, I'm just like, dang, bruh, the crazy part is the last page in that journal is like me affirming everything that I am. And, I appreciate that kind of going back. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. And I will say too, like one of the biggest things that I've always struggled with, even in growing up, was wanting to remain in obscurity, like wanting to continue to be behind the scenes. But I also recognize that seasons are changing, and as much as I can want to continue to be behind the scenes, as much as I want to shrink, as much as I want to, be the person that just kind of helps, prop people up, lift them up, and be there for them and hold space. I think there's a season now that I'm in where it's time for me to mask off, and to step into the light. And that's something I've always been afraid of because of what you're saying. I want my behind the scenes to be the same as while I'm in the light. I don't want to be overexposed. That's always been my fear. And that's something that I'm working through, or I have worked through. And I'm just really just allowing for myself to be everything that God has called for me to be in this moment.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Cause I don't think people understand just the challenge of visibility, bro. It all sounds good until it happens. Mm-hmm. And it's just an immense amount of pressure. But then there's also an addiction to it. One needs it as a kind of oxygen. Yeah. Because you're good at it. And it's a place that gives you life, and it's a place that make you feel just alive mm-hmm. and vibrant, and you contribute something in which so many people see something in it that lights a spark in them and things like that. And then you have to deal with the kind of, there's always this pressure to be the thing that you once was when you were most visible. So it's a couple of my friends, we were talking about this. So in 2020, many of us who write, during those moments we were doing public work and giving language for people and what they were going through. And now 5 years later, many of us, we're we kind of tired, bro. And it's almost like, Tyrese, what more do you want from me? It's just what more do you want? But then a part of it is you've been so used to it and you almost need it in a very real way, sometimes unhealthy, sometimes healthy. And being visible comes with a lot of weight, a lot of burden, a lot of pressure that a lot of people sometimes don't have, don't have either an understanding with or grace with or compassion for, to be able to separate kind of you from your visible self, and moments in which you need to kind of become the non-visible self, which is important for finding God in simplicity. I think this is where, your relationship with God, your relationship with yourself, your relationship, with those you love the most, your relationship with your counselor, your therapist, your mentor, your big brother, your big sis, your dog, your homie, becomes critically important, because it's those moments of simplicity, whether it's just simply just let me be for a little bit. And let me feel what I feel. Toni Morrison says this: I want to feel what I want to feel, even if it's sadness. And just let me feel for a little bit. Let me be for a little bit. And I just think, to me, God is in that too. The simple moments in which, we become more human, we become more loved, and we become more safe.
Yeah, and that's something that's been coming up a lot lately in reading. I've been reading through the book of Psalms, facilitating too with the young adults here at the church. And sitting with that, just thinking about how quickly thinking about lamenting, and how quickly we like to rush through that part of life. But you can't have, cough drop. You can't have high praise without deep sadness or lamenting, right? And I think, and sometimes it's okay for us to want to take a step back. It's okay for us to want to rest. It's okay for us to tell people yo, I need you, and I'm not okay. And I think we need to normalize that. We need to normalize what it means to be okay with sitting with the not so jovial parts of life, and not feeling like we have to rush out of that weight, that grief. And that's something that was just on my mind, and how we're waiting and sitting well. And then tying it into our topic today about simplicity, I think finding your rhythm is super important. And I think in a lot of ways, in growing up and, being in church, or feeling like I need to say, I got to do it this way to be a good Christian, or I got to do it another way to be for God to be pleased with me, or I can't do that because he's going to be upset. Really just taking a moment to really get to know God and who he is, And also in knowing who he is and reading his word, that kind of helps with understanding what the true rhythm is of what it means to be a Christian in our walk and just be a human being. And I think sometimes that will help us all take the pressure off. And I've found that the more that I got into my word, the more that I, got around good people who are also just striving and trying just to be human and be honest and authentic. I've noticed that that's been some of the best times of growth for me, and it's been in obscurity, and it's dope. I found that I've some of the practices that I've done during the times when I feel like I needed to scale back to figure out who I am. I started to just take walks, like morning walks and afternoon walks, like an old lady, and it's been dope. It's been amazing.
Take us through a walk real quick. So like, how does it happen? What is going on in the walk? What are you saying? What kind of conversation you having with yourself? What is happening during the walk?
Yeah. So in the morning, it's tight. So in the morning I have coffee. I created a playlist called Before Coffee Daily on Spotify.
Okay. What's on it?
It's literally, I made it one day randomly, and then I realized it was what I needed for my walks. It's all praise and worship music, like all the good stuff. All of it. And sometimes I'll listen to that just starting out. I get up at 5 a.m. super early, and I make my coffee. As soon as I wake up, turn on the kettle, make the coffee, and then I put on my clothes and I'm out the door, going to the track. And I just walk for 3 miles. It's 1 hour. And I start out listening to praise and worship music, and then I'll just turn it off and just listen to just listen for God to speak or to just like think through some things. I found that when my walk, sometimes if it's something going on with work and it's like getting on my nerves, stressing me out, I'm like, yo, I got to figure this out. Yeah. Like I can't go off on people today. Or how can this be more impactful of what we're working on? I'll just let that be the thing that I'm thinking about. Just be in silence and just walk and just pay attention to the rhythm of my feet, just hitting the ground. And then noticing my breathing. And then sometimes, most times, the solution comes. The answer comes. And I'll just put it in my notes and just keep it moving. Then once my little app goes off and it's like 3 miles. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. I'll get in the car, go back home, grab some more coffee when I get in the house, shower, get ready for my day. And it's just 7 o'clock.
That's real. I don't think people understand sometimes like the power of getting up a little bit earlier. Yeah. Just to like get your day started, not the day get started with you.
Yes. Like, it's so peaceful.
Oh my God.
The world is sleep.
I know. It's like the best thing ever. Yeah. Now I don't want to sound like a tryhard, but like I get up at 4:30. Oh. Like 4:45 is like at the latest. And the first thing I do, it's been kind of like a manic obsession lately. The first thing I do is I go downstairs, I get me a glass of water and drink some water. And then
that's good.
And then I do my headspace meditation, and then I go work out, because I want to kind of, just like get going in my day. Like I want to like today, you'll know when Dante's depression is like really like riding me, if I sleep in by mistake, which means that like, I probably didn't have a good night before, or, my mind is racing in a lot of ways, or like, it's very difficult to just like get moving. So, but the days that like, and some days, I'm not always like this morning, like I'm supposed to this morning was a cycling morning, and I hate cycling mornings because like they're always cycling for an hour. So it's kind of like drudgery, but just getting up before the world gets up, being quiet, nothing's going on. And Denzel Washington, in a recent interview, he was encouraging people, don't check their phones in the morning. Just get up in the morning and spend 5 minutes in silence and just be with yourself for a little bit, and it's not on some like, you got to do this, but like begin to notice what happens as you begin to spend time with yourself. Things begin to get clear. And in some sense, like spending time with yourself is spending time with God. Yeah, absolutely. If we just gonna be real about it, like spending time with yourself, and and there's this practice in Catholic history where it's called the examine,
Yeah.
where it's just like, it's moments where, you're really, it's very much like Buddhist meditation, where you kind of sitting and reflecting, and you're dealing with yourself and you're being with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more that we're able to be with ourselves, in some sense, the more clear God becomes, and the more clear God's desire for us becomes, and the more clear we become, and the voices that we hear in our head, because it's almost like, when we don't get up in the morning, we don't spend time with ourselves and don't spend time with God or whatever, by the time the day comes, everything is so noisy. And you take that through your day, you take it to sleep, the negativity, the drainingness, the whatever, getting up in the morning and being with yourself, bro, like that thing is a vibe, bro. Like, I don't know what I would be without like that time. And I don't know, is this something you've noticed that you've been doing as you got older? Is the older you get, the more you prioritize, like you're kind of like alone time or no?
I mean,
have you always been that way?
Yeah, I've always been that way. Even as a kid, like growing up, I would be the one that wake up in the morning, and I love music. So the soundtrack of me getting ready in the morning, I would turn on MTV. Yeah, there was MTV in the morning on TV.
Oh yeah,
on cable TV. That's how old I am.
Hey, MTV Raps or something like that, right?
No, in the morning it was just MTV. It was just in the morning.
In the morning with MTV, and it's like just the hits,
videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was
so
a
I
time.
would just get ready to whatever the songs were, the videos, and so that was the soundtrack of my life. Which is funny now that I'm saying that, because essentially it's the same thing with this playlist. But now it's just something that's curated through Spotify. Yeah, waking up, but this time now going for a walk. Is there something I do? To answer your question, is there something I do now that I'm older that I didn't do before? I pray a lot more. I didn't know. I didn't really understand the power of prayer growing up. Like, I know people did it, but it always seemed like a performance.
That's real.
But I didn't. But now I've come to a place where I understand the importance and like the honesty that comes out of truly just like praying what it is that, or communicating with God what it is that I'm feeling, and the honesty that comes with that. That's something new for me. Well, not new, but it's something I do that now that I'm older. Like being completely honest, like some David type prayers, like smite mine.
Hey, cut him off, Jesus. That's funny.
Or just, just being very grateful for a lot of stuff. I just being a little bit more mindful of everything, because everything is a given, but also everything is not a given. It's not like just something that's automatic, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. Yeah. I get it. I find myself, as I'm getting older, I think I'm changing in that way. You got to realize the way I was raised. I was raised Pentecostal, apostolic to be exact. So much of the world I grew up in was about a kind of performance where, it wasn't like, I'm not saying it's bad, right? It was just a thing. And it wasn't abnormal to wake up to like prayer and speaking in tongues and things like that. And just this very vibrant, expressive kind of praise or way of being as a Christian. And the older I get, the less I need. Like, I wish I could say I pray as much as I used to, but I just don't pray as much as I used to. Yeah. It's so much of, right? Yeah, so much of like I feel like the older I get, the more simple my faith becomes. Yeah. Because from 18 to 33, where I'm at now, I've had such vastly different faith experiences. Been raised Pentecostal. I've been in, white churches. I've been in, I've just been all over. I've ran the gamut, and I've realized that, like, for me, there is a kind of power in simplicity. It's probably maybe because I'm an artist too. I'm a writer, poet, and that thing, like the language.
Multi-hyphenate.
Yeah. What I mean? multi-hyphenate is like a thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like a you're creative.
Multiple disciplines.
Yeah. So it's like the older I get, the less, I feel the need to kind of like, cry out or something like that. Like I do a lot of talking to God in my meditation time, and most of my prayers are not asking things. I'm just thinking. Like this morning, I began to allow my mind to just thank God for everything and just say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's something my therapist said about his mornings. He said, every day I wake up, I just simply wake up and say thank you. And I feel like a lot of my prayers back in the day were about things I could get from God. And a lot of my prayers now are about things God has given to me that I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people would say that's becoming less spiritual. Or, if it was up to the people I grew up with, they'd be like, Lord, boy, you done left the Lord.
Right.
You done changed, boy. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am changed. I still love the Lord. I still love the Lord. Yeah. And y'all still ask me to lead prayer when I come home, and things like that. But like, I really now prioritize a God who is simple.
Yeah.
And because my life is already so complex. I just don't need my God to be as complex and complicated as my life.
Yeah, that's so good because he's not.
Yeah.
Like, but also that's not what's required of us, right? Yeah. Like our job, what we're here for is to worship him.
Yeah.
With everything that we do, with our whole selves. And even when we create things to worship, it be a form of worship.
Yeah.
Like how we drive our car can also be looked at as a form of worship and what we appreciate that he's given us. So I feel that like just being in deep gratitude about everything, because it's a given, but it's also not. Like Jesus is the homie, but also must be revered.
Hey, facts. And a part of it is almost like, I guess the thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like how one's personality styles, affect one's relationship with God. Some people are more expressive. Some people are more contemplative and meditative. Some people just kind of need, give me something small on the side. That's all I need,
Yeah.
And
some people are very intellectual, right? Yeah. They want to think very deeply. They want to read a lot of things to consume. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, I guess, in that way, I'm changing in that way where like I went through that time where I was like very expressive as a Pentecostal. And then when I went through the kind of white churches and my religious kind of sojourn from like 2017 to 2019 in a very intellectual way, Pentecostal to very intellectual from like 2012 to 2017, 18. And then I went on my religious sojourn. I've been around the way. And thankfully that in the midst of that, I thank God that in the midst of that, like, it's almost like I went through a wilderness season in which at the end of that wilderness season in Mark chapter 1, that I became seriously Christian in that, like, when you walk through the wilderness, there's not much that you need in the wilderness, or it's not much that you can carry through it. And when you leave, the things that remain at the end are the things that you actually needed to make it through. And that was words and people. So you think about Jesus going in the wilderness, didn't have food, didn't have drink, didn't have this. But one thing he did have, he had the words that he would talk from a young kid that stuck with him, that in the moment when he needed it most, he leaned on the language that he had inherited and was given, in the language that shaped his heart. And then the Bible says, and the angels waited on him. So he had personalities, so people, I don't know if we would call angels people, but from a metaphor standpoint, he had people around him who held him down, and they were his cheerleaders. And I guess like right now where I'm at is like, give me language, give me songs, give me preaching. I don't got to be too much. Just give me some language to help me navigate, and then give me people. Yeah, I need people. Yeah, all the other stuff.
That's real.
I've been through seminary, done argued it, done wrestled with it.
Yeah.
If that floats your boat, that's cool. But for me, I'm chill.
Yeah, I mean, that's real. And, I sometimes sit now and I think about, like, a lot of people who become lost in feeling like they have to do so much more to be loved. And sometimes that makes me kind of sad, just knowing that, some people get lost in the margins because of what they've perceived or how people have tried to complicate this walk, this journey, when really it's just that simple. It is just rest, just rest in knowing that God is faithful. And if he will dress the lilies in beauty and splendor, if he also will make sure that the sparrows, he has his eye on every single one of them, he definitely cares about us. He definitely is concerned about everything as it pertains to us. Yeah. And, that's something that that my heart goes out to people who have been lost and people who have deconstructed their faith and haven't reconstructed it in a way that's been, edifying to the body.
Yeah.
And I just, is this whole thing is not that complicated. It's really simple.
Yeah.
It's really, really simple. God does all the work. He did it all.
Hey, facts.
He did it all. He made everything possible.
We might need to preach that again, Lord Jesus.
And it's just where I'm at in my journey is just he just wants me to be. Yeah. He wants me to be all of Tykia.
Yeah.
All of her.
Yeah.
And to really lean in being all of her so that he can get everything that he wants out of me.
Yeah. And
that is my worship, you know?
Yeah. That's
just
real.
Pure.
That's real.
Yeah.
I've been reading, I've been working on a chapter in my book, and in my next book, and it's on beauty. And I told my editor, I was like, yo, I don't know how many black men have written on beauty, and I just want to challenge myself to write on beauty.
Okay.
I don't know how we're going to get it done. I don't know how we're going to arc it out and things like that. But I realized that with all the pressures, whether it's the pressures of faith or pressures of visibility or pressures of relationships or pressures of family or pressures of the environment and institutions we find ourselves in, it is almost a desire for simplicity because judgment and shame is so prevalent in those environments. We have to be another thing, and if we're not, then we get punished, and if we get punished, then we get shamed and blamed and ostracized or seen that you're different in that and this and that. And I think what so many people want is the beauty of simplicity. And one of the quotes that so in every chapter, usually in chapters of books, you have the quotes in italics called epigraph. It's a quote that kind of summarizes or prepares the mind for what you're about to encounter in a chapter. And I was reminded of this epigraph this morning by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I think that's his name.
Okay.
And it's entitled, it's just simple. It's very simple. He says, "Beauty will save the world." And I was thinking about that today and also reflecting on the political climate that we find ourselves in. And the other day I'm outside and I'm listening to birds, and I got this new bird app called Merlin from Cornell University, and you can record the birds wherever you're at, and it'll tell you which bird it is, and it's a sonograph in your phone, and you can kind of see their songs and their singing mapped out on a page. And Asa, my son, he came outside with me. He was like, "Daddy, why you alone?" I was like, "I'm actually not alone, but I just came out here to give me some time, but do you want to join with me? You want to come see the birds?" So he said yes and things like that. And so we began together to listen to the birds. And for some reason, that moment saved something in me, because the morning of, there was a lot of political things going on, and I was just kind of frustrated that day and trying to figure out dang, what am I say today that's gonna help people get language for what they're going through, and then the pressure of you always got to write about the hard thing, or you got to become the hard thing, especially as a black man. You always got to be fighting something or struggling through something. I'm just yo, there was something simple about the sheer fact of listening to birds with my son, and I thought about like the scripture, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof and all that dwells within.
Come on.
You know, come on now. Hey, I am Reverend now.
Come on, Reverend.
I am Reverend. I know it's in the book. It is in the book. Don't get me to preach. I ain't preached in a while now. So I feel like preaching. But the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. And I think that one of the most beautiful ways I've been able to find God is sometimes through a cup of coffee being made. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof and all that dwells within. Listening to a bird, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof and all that dwells within. Seeing a woman today whose son didn't show up at the coffee shop because he had to work. And she says the reason why she showed up today is because a friend needed to go to the hospital, and she took her to the hospital, and she said, I'm going to stay by my phone, so hopefully, you know, I can pick you up again. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof and all that dwells within. Or a girl yesterday at the coffee shop who's a poet and reading her poem out loud to her and seeing her realize that she has art, you know, or a simple I love you, or a simple good morning, or a simple good night, or a simple I'm checking on you, or a simple movie or a song. And I just think that like there was something, if beauty, as Dostoevsky says, will save the world, then like God is found in the simple ways in which things are rendered beautiful.
Facts.
And I don't know, it's mysterious. You're reading a word, and you're reading the Bible, and you read words from thousands of years ago, and you begin to cry. You're reading a poem, and you begin to cry. You're reading an essay, and you begin to cry. You're listening to a song, you begin to cry. And you begin to think of all the things that God has done in your life, and all the ways you've changed, and all the things that you've overcome, and every door that was shut, and everything that you've gotten through. And you begin to feel a kind of happiness, and a smile cracks on your face. It's mysterious, it's precious, and it's beautiful. And to me, that's God. That's divine. Yeah. That's love.
Yeah.
And the preaching, you know, and the singing, all of that. But like, I really like those small moments in which they lead into the bigger moments of worship.
God is definitely in the details.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
So, how would you encourage people, as we close, to find God in simplicity?
I'm going to say it again. Go outside. Just go outside and just listen to the sounds, whatever you're hearing. Even if you live in a major city that's busy, if you live in New York City, take a look at the top of the building. There's like this beautiful moldings that are at the top of like a beautiful green or blue or black or white color. And just take a look at like the details. Take a step back and take a look at the details of your life. Feel the air. Feel the wind. Yeah. Feel yourself. That's real meta, but that's all I got.
Hey, facts. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think for me, one of the moments like I resonate so much with in the Bible is Jesus is in the moment where he's crossing the sea. And once he gets across the sea, there's people, a crowd who says, hey, can you come heal us? We need people who are to be healed. And Jesus gets away and gets alone. And he comes out after getting alone, and he chooses to still heal those people. And it's as if, for me, that story suggests that you are not a bad person because you need space by yourself.
Facts.
You cannot be good to the world if you're not good to yourself. You cannot be a quote unquote representative of the hands and feet of Jesus if you're not willing to be like him. Everybody thinks that like everything is about showing up and saving and healing and setting free, which that's critical work. But a lot of times that's just a precious moment for me of Jesus getting away to take time to be alone. And I think for me, I would encourage people to buy a journal and to 5 minutes a day, just be by yourself. Yeah. And let your mind wander. And just begin to write what's on your heart and what you're wrestling with, so that by the time you show up into the world, you would have dealt with something and you're not taking your woundedness to people, which allow people to carry you in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, allow people to be like those brothers who lift that dude up through the roof and said, hey, bro, my boy need to be healed.
Right.
So we need to carry my dog to the top.
Right. Drop it to
allow
the
that to happen. But I think a lot of times, like, the work of grace, of ministry, of power, of love, of compassion is a kind of singular and solitary work in which we come together as our full and best selves, sometimes our full and not best selves.
Mm-hmm.
But we come into ourselves together and attempt, you know, to emit the light that we have found within ourselves that God has put there. So,
Amen.
Amen. I'm feeling very contemplative today.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm in a moment.
It's okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So.
That's good. So I would like to encourage you guys as we close out too. If there's anything, we want you to talk to us. Leave comments in the comment section. Let us know if there's something that you do that simplifies your faith in your journey walk, or something that you aspire to do. During this season right now, we're in a season of fasting and Lenten season. And as a church, we are corporately giving up one thing and claiming another thing. So encourage you to be reflective about what that will be. What will you give up and what will you take on? I love you guys.
Hey, man. Mustard.
You gonna mustard in your spirit?
Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off.
Seriously.
Turn the TV off for real though. Go get with God. Go get with yourself. Hallelujah.